Okay, so we just went through how Richard Nixon, the first of the 5 Republican presidents since World War II, or the second of the 5, the first illegitimately elected of the 4 illegitimately elected presidents. Richard Nixon stole the election in 1968. He, of course, had to resign. Jerry Ford became president. He was never elected, so it kind of doesn't matter. Then you had, coming out of the Carter presidency, coming out of the Ford presidency, we had Jimmy Carter, legitimately elected. And after the Carter presidency, we had Ronald Reagan running for office. And this is where it gets really interesting. In fact, let me get into this, and then, we'll talk about George W. Bush, I guess, the next segment. Clip number 1. This is, actually, I'm getting ahead of myself here. And I really, I want to move right to the new stuff. Here's what happened. Bonnie Sauter. Bonnie Sauter was that's his last name, was the candidate for president of Iran. And, there we are. And he was, when the movie Argo came out, the movie Argo basically portrays the Iranian people as bloodthirsty, we want the hostages, all this kind of stuff. And so Bonnie Sauter comes out, and here's what he wrote for the Christian Science Monitor. He says, Ayatollah Khomeini and Ronald Reagan had organized a clandestine negotiation known as the October Surprise, which prevented the attempts by myself and then U.S. President Jimmy Carter to free the hostages before the 1980 U.S. presidential election took place. The fact that they were not released tipped the results of the election in favor of Reagan. Okay, this is the president of Iran. He says, I openly opposed the hostage-taking throughout the election campaign, telling students that occupying an embassy in the heart of Tehran was a sign of cowardice rather than courage. I won the election with over 70% of the vote, in part on that platform. Other candidates were also openly against hostage-taking, and overall 96% of the votes in that election, it was the election in 1980 in Iran, while the hostages were being held. 96% of votes in that election were given to candidates who were against it, who were against the hostage-taking. But the Reagan campaign, specifically Bill Casey, the chairman of the Reagan campaign, the guy that Reagan rewarded by making him head of the CIA, Bill Casey cut a deal with the Ayatollah as the president of Iran at that time, just, wrote last week for the Christian Science Monitor, cut a deal with the Ayatollah to hold the hostages. Here's Ted Koppel talking about the crisis. I mean, this killed the Carter presidency. Here's Ted Koppel back in 1980.
For Jimmy Carter, day 444 begins just as the last 2 days have begun. Without sleep, exhausted, surrounded by aides in the Oval Office, President Carter is desperately trying to salvage this symbolic victory for his administration, to free the 52 American hostages before Ronald Reagan takes the oath of office at noon.
Now, this is, January, whatever it was, the inauguration day in January of 1981. Here's Ted Koppel as, Jimmy Carter is about to go up and say, at the at the inauguration of Ronald Reagan. Here it is.
Reports of the hostage release are flying fast and furiously now. With Ronald Reagan's oath of office now only 30 minutes away, Jimmy Carter, on his way to the inaugural podium, is questioned by Sam Donaldson.
Mr. President, the hostage is out.
Can't say yet.
Not yet, Sam. Not yet. Is that what he said, Frank? I couldn't hear it.
Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet. They've cheated him. They've cheated him right down to the end.
They did.